The end of the summer is almost here. Students are going back to class, they're moving back into their dorms, and Focus is starting their fall outreach. Hello, my name is Kevin Cotter from Focus Equip, and I have the privilege and honor of interviewing our president and founder, Curtis Martin, today on the subject of fall outreach. Curtis, during fall outreach, there's all sorts of events, parties, games. Indian, what is the ultimate purpose of our fall outreach?
In those first few weeks, there's something that is truly amazing going on in the lives of young people, particularly freshmen and transfer students who do not have their social sets all dialed in yet, and so they're looking around trying to figure out what's going on. It's important that we represent the most vibrant, active, and engaging presence we can to attract as many as possible, because the world makes a lot of noise out there and there's a lot of distractions. And I think for many times Catholics sit back and say, well, we should just sit on the hill and wait for people to come to us. And Jesus did not tell his disciples simply to come. He did, come to me, and then he said, now go. And we have to recognize this is a go gospel. We've got to get out and engage people where they are so that we can draw them back to the fullness of the faith. And so fall outreach plays a really critical role there.
And so you have all these things going on campus with new freshman orientation, students meeting up with their friends. How do we really invite those people in and create what could be called a great front door?
Really, the issue is just go be yourself. I mean, 22-year-olds are fun. They've got lots of energy, they've got lots of ideas. If you put a bunch of them together, they get really creative. It's simply recognizing that God has wired us in such a way that we have certain loves, certain likes, and so do other people. And in the midst of sharing those, friendship occurs. And it's in the midst of that friendship that we recognize that human relationships begin to foster and then they flourish. And it's within human relationships that a relationship with God is best communicated to other people.
Well, one thing that I thought was very interesting is before your reversion back to the Catholic faith, you were actually involved with Campus Crusade for Christ at Louisiana State University, and you're actually a student who did fall outreach. Could you tell us a little bit about your own experiences as a student doing fall outreach?
One of the ones I love to share is a spring break outreach that we did where we were doing slow motion football. And Crusade's a huge organization. They invited several professional athletes to come down and professional football players from the NFL. And we put together about, I think, 4 plays of football. And they were choreographed. And we practiced and practiced. And so all of a sudden on a beach with thousands of people, 22 guys line up and start playing football in slow motion. And so nobody knows what's going on. And all of a sudden it's blue 42 and people looking around, and all of a sudden hike, and all 22 people all running in patterns and defenses, and the first play everybody's kind of like, what's going on? And all of a sudden people started to gather, dozens and then hundreds. And by the end of the 4th play, thousands of people were standing on the beach. And at the end of the 4th play, George Martin, who at the time was playing for the New York Giants, step forward and say, I just want to introduce myself. I'm George Martin, play for the New York Giants. I'm here with a group called Campus Crusade for Christ, and it's spring break right now, and we're out celebrating and having fun. This group I'm with, guys, could you just raise your hand? And hundreds of Crusade people raise their hand all around amidst the thousands, saying, we're here with this group right now, and if you're interested in learning more about what life with God would mean, stick around. And with that, over 1,000 students walked away. But guess what? Another 1,000 plus students stuck around. And we were all prepared to share the gospel. And I remember sitting and sharing the gospel with 3 people, a buddy of mine and I, walking through a brief gospel presentation. And it was a change of direction for them. And they each made a decision to recommit their lives to following Christ. And that context of the game made it possible to share the content of the relationship with Jesus Christ. And that's what we want to do. We want to create and foster those contexts so that we can share either the initial relationship with Christ, how do you get to know him, or sometimes more importantly, if you do know him, how do I follow him as an adult?
That's fantastic. When students and missionaries are out doing fall outreach, they're making connections, they're having conversations, a lot of questions are posed to them about the faith. What are some of the probably most pertinent or most popular questions that you hear that young people are currently wrestling with on campus?
Yeah, I'm a 50-year-old man, so I'm probably not the best person to ask relevancy of what the average college freshman, because by the time I get to meet them, they've usually had many of those questions already answered. But they have real fundamental questions of, how do I know all this is true? I mean, I'm being invited to make a radical life choice. How do I know that Jesus really rose from the dead? How do I know that the Catholic Church has the truth about Christ? How do I know that God's plan for me is better than my plan for me. Because I think every young person is finally gets to the point where they have to make a decision. I know I've got a plan for my life, and now I have a claim that God's got a plan for my life. Is that plan that God has truly better for me, so that I can freely let go of my plan and say, whatever you want, Lord, I'll do that instead.
Kirsch, if there is one thing you could tell Focus student leaders and missionaries, what would you want to tell them?
The fields are white for harvest, and to beseech the Lord of the harvest for workers. And I talk to a lot of young people and people of lots of different ages, but particularly the college students, and particularly seniors and missionaries. And they'll ask the question, well, I'm not sure if I'm called. Everyone's called. The question is, have you been called to do something other than serve in the mission? And there's plenty of other things to do.
But if I continue to give by bits and pieces, no matter how much God steers the wheel on that car that's barely moving, it just won't turn. And so my encouragement is run and lay aside every encumbrance to do so.
That's a great message for continuing the mission. And thank you so much, Simon, for your interview. This has been Kevin Cotter for Focus Equip. See you next time.